Mentoring and coaching are both valid and helpful ways of working with people. However, they are at the opposite end of the spectrum in that mentoring, I'm simplifying it a little bit here, but mentoring is mostly an asking approach. A telling approach, whereas coaching is primarily an asking approach. So one way of looking at it is that a mentor pours in, usually by telling and sharing one's own experiences and knowledge, whereas a coach pulls out, mostly by listening and asking good questions.
Welcome to the Good Questions Podcast, an interactive podcast based in central Minnesota where you can submit questions about life, church, and theology. My name is Jake Anderson, and this is the Good Questions Podcast. This is episode 6 of the Good Questions Podcast, based here in central Minnesota, where you can submit questions around theology and life. We'd love to receive your questions and interact with them here. You can submit questions to questions@fbcpillager.com. We're a new podcast that's just launched recently. We are working on getting our Facebook and Insta pages up as well, where you will be able to submit questions. And you feel free to submit questions to questions@fbcpillager.com. And we have on the podcast today Walt Hastings. Walt, it's great to have you on the Good Questions Podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And by way of introduction, Walt is a coach. He's an author. You've served as a pastor and a church planter, and Walt has been a great blessing to me. I'm super excited to have you on the podcast today. Walt, can you share just a little bit about your background with us?
Sure. I was born into a pastor's and missionary's home. I have a twin brother and an older sister. Went to college in Indiana, majored in physical education and music, worked as a program director at a YMCA for 3 years, then felt a call to ministry. So I've been in pastoral ministry for 37 years. 10 years of that was as a lead pastor. I planted a church here in the Denver area for a couple of years. I've been coaching for 26 years, and right now my wife and I are associates with a mission organization called One Challenge, where I direct coaching and coach training.
Awesome, Walt. Awesome. And you're also an avid skier. We were just talking about skiing a minute ago. There are 2 resorts open in Colorado at this point, right?
Yes. I no longer ski the double diamonds like I used to, but I still enjoy skiing at age 82.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
I've climbed all of the 50-some 14ers in Colorado, the peaks that are above 14,000 feet.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome, Walt. That's awesome. I have yet to join you skiing. I would love to be able to do that at some point.
It'd be nice.
That would be really good. Yeah. Well, it's great to have you on the podcast. And this is the Good Questions Podcast. And I was asked recently a very good question. What is the difference between mentoring and coaching? And I thought Walt would be a great person to answer that question. So Walt, would you share with us?
Yes, I can. Mentoring and coaching are both valid and helpful ways of working with people. However, they are at the opposite end of the spectrum in that mentoring, I'm simplifying it a little bit here, but mentoring is mostly an asking approach. A telling approach, whereas coaching is primarily an asking approach. So one way of looking at it is that a mentor pours in, usually by telling and sharing one's own experiences and knowledge, whereas a coach pulls out, mostly by listening and asking good questions.
I mentioned it just a minute ago. You've been my coach for close to 15 years now, and I greatly appreciate your coaching in my life. It's been a huge blessing to me as a leader, as a church planter, as a replanter, a pastor. It's been a huge blessing. But I wondered that you coach a lot of different people, Walt. I know in the business world and in ministry.
Yes.
Why is coaching so important, and how have you seen it be helpful to others?
There's 4 reasons why coaching works: time, thinking, insights, and accountability. Most of the people I coach, if they would take the time to sit down and think about something, they could probably work through the issue pretty much by themselves. But we're all busy, and so they don't take the time. So having an appointment with me forces them to set aside the time. And then the second reason it works is because of thinking. So hopefully I ask questions that force them to think. Perhaps they think about things they've never thought about before. And as they think, the third reason why coaching works is that they come up with new insights that they own. So they own what we're going to talk about today. They own any options around the issues that come up. They own which option they'll follow through on. They own the follow up steps that they take. So, ownership is a key thing. And then accountability is also a big factor. I was coaching someone just 2 days ago, and they said, well, you know, the reason I got those things done, Walt, was I knew that next time we talked, you were going to ask me how that went. So, accountability is a big thing that makes coaching work.
So you were talking about asking good questions. So you're a follower of Jesus too, and what role does the Holy Spirit play in helping you to ask insightful questions, Walt, as you
Jesus said that the Holy Spirit would be our teacher and guide. And in a sense, one word for the Holy Spirit is a paraclete, which in English means the one called alongside to help. And so, in a sense, the Holy Spirit is the real coach. And I like to think of myself as kind of the assistant coach to the Holy Spirit.
So you believe in a coaching call like that with the follower of Jesus, that the Spirit is at work in that person, Spirit is at work in you and your conversation, directing and guiding.
Yeah, a key principle is to recognize that God has been at work in a person's life long before I ever came on the scene. And so my job as a coach is to try to discern where God has been at work in that person's life and then to join God in that effort.
Well, maybe this idea of coaching is new to some who are listening to the podcast now. And I'm just curious. So, who needs a coach? Like, I'm a pastor. Pastors need coaches. I would make that case. Who needs a coach? Who can benefit from good coaching? Well,
The people who can benefit the most from coaching are those who have set high goals for themselves, who are
mm.
motivated, who want to learn and grow, who want to succeed in life. People who are satisfied with the status quo don't need a coach.
Well, I think that there are probably a large group of people who would really benefit from having a coach. I mentioned earlier, you coach people in the business world. Is that correct as well?
Yes, most of my coaching is done with pastors and church staff and missionaries, but I do coach
Yeah.
some business people.
Awesome. Awesome. And you mentioned you and your wife are serving as associates with One Challenge. So what is some of the coaching that you do with One Challenge? I'm curious.
Well, I coach quite a number of people who would identify as missionaries. And so I coach people all over the world on almost every continent right now except Australia. Actually, most of the issues we talk about are everyday issues that everyday people face in their regular lives. So some of it's time management, some of it's working on projects, some of it's relationships, some of it's conflict resolution, a wide variety of issues. Whatever the human condition is, there can be coaching around that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I didn't ask you this question beforehand, but just on the spot here, Walt, I'm curious, is there a moment that would maybe be a quintessential moment of coaching someone and seeing a light bulb come on for them that was really impactful for you? If you'd be willing maybe to describe a moment like that was fulfilling and exciting, thinking about why you love to coach.
Well, in coaching, I'm a member of the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, and one of our code of ethics points is confidentiality.
You bet.
But
Yeah.
so I hesitate to share any specific
Eh,
examples. I'm
Yes.
thinking of one guy I've been coaching. He's a church planter. I've been coaching
Mhm.
him for 20 years, and
Mm.
he started with a handful of people. And 3 weeks ago, they had their 20th celebration service, 20th year in in existence, and they had 1,057 people present.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I coached, one guy for 4 years who was the founder of a network of churches, and now that church is the second largest church here in the state of Colorado.
Well, you are an excellent coach, and you certainly wouldn't be breaking confidentiality with me because I can share I can share here some of my own testimony to being coached by you. You know, it's challenging to be a leader, especially to be a leader in 2025. There are a number of unique challenges that we face, and it's difficult. You mentioned everyday issues, but it's difficult sometimes to be able to see. So, what do we do? What we're standing on the precipice of something, and to know where God is leading us, to discern vision. And one of the things that you've taught me is that one of a leader's greatest responsibilities is to spend time with God and to discern vision for where he wants you to go. Having a
Yeah.
coach is just so helpful in that process to be able to listen, to talk through, to help discern where God is leading. And it's just been invaluable in my life and ministry. And I remember when we left our church plant in Colorado, Walt, you came and you were part of our last service there, and you smiled and you said to me, "I think I was a part of that." And I would say you absolutely were. Thank you for being a part of coaching me and having an impact in our ministry. Greatly thankful for you, brother.
And my privilege, Jake. I might mention I've written a book on coaching, Fast
Yes,
Track to
yes.
Masterful Coaching,
Awesome.
and it's available
So
on Amazon. If some of the folks who hear this podcast are interested in coaching, this would be a good introduction to it.
so Fast Track to Masterful Coaching, you can find it on Amazon, and we'll put a link in the show notes here as well. Just curious, Walt, so what was your motivation to write the book?
Well, I have been coaching 26 years now, and along the way, I've accumulated quite a bit of knowledge and understanding about coaching. And I remember back my first few years when I was a coach, I kind of stumbled along. And a book like this would have been very helpful. It would have saved me years of making mistakes. So I wrote it for beginning coaches and for coaches who've coached a few years who want to move on to become really masterful in their coaching.
Awesome. So if someone is just checking out coaching though, wants to understand it more, it's not too high level that they wouldn't be able to pick up things from it, and
Yeah,
good
they would.
introduction
Or
as well.
people who maybe they're not interested in becoming a professional coach, but they want to learn coaching skills such as listening at a deeper level, asking more powerful questions, or being fully present. The book would help them understand and acquire those skills.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. We'll put a link to your book, Fast Track to Masterful Coaching, in the show notes. You can get it at Amazon, ebook or hard copy, and we'll look forward to sharing that with our audience here. Um, yeah, anything, Walt, that you'd want to maybe mention if someone is on the fence or thinking about getting a coach and being involved in a coaching relationship, anything that you would encourage them to
Go for it.
go for it? Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, it's been great to have you on the podcast, Walt, and to hear some of your experiences and wisdom around coaching. I hope some will get your book that you've written. It is great. I've read it. Super good book. And if you're interested in learning more about coaching, you can respond to this podcast as well. Questions at fbcpillager.com. Would love to talk with you more about coaching, maybe finding a coach that would fit for you. Uh, and as always, you can submit questions to the Good Questions podcast at questions at fbcpillager.com. Walt, it's been great to have you on the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. You're welcome. My privilege.
God bless you, brother. Take care. We'll see you again next week with another episode of the Good Questions podcast. Take care.